24th, 1996 was the day that my whole life changed. I was doing my absolute dream job, teaching, and I thought I had a minor injury. I fell on some debris in the hallway, but after 4 knee surgeries and tons of doctors and specialists, I was finally diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome. When you get hurt, whether you are cut or trauma or burn, your fight and flight system goes on. If you should develop this disease, it never ever shuts down. So your system is completely flaring at all times. My first 10 years, I took 22 pills a day.
Beth, I have to believe this has been expensive. How have you been able to pay for your care? Beth Stillitano, we're here today to hear your story. And in chatting before, we found out that you're living in Charlotte, North Carolina, a really nice spot. But you're originally from right here on Long Island, from Syosset. We're in Jericho, so right next door. And you taught here on Long Island, but what town did you grow up in?
I grew up first out east in Secaucus, but really I spent my childhood in Syosset. And then my husband and I lived in Merritt for 10 years.
And where did you go to school?
Syosset.
And college?
Undergraduate, University of Buffalo, which is actually where I met my husband, and then graduate, Lehigh.
Oh, okay. So stayed nearby. Pennsylvania, upstate New York. You pick places that have colder weather and plenty of snow.
Yeah, this is true.
And
not anymore.
Tell me, no, Charlotte doesn't have that much snow, huh? Tell me about your teaching career.
Oh my gosh, I loved teaching. All I ever wanted to do was teach. I used to make my friends play school all the time. So I was very excited. And when I graduated undergraduate, my parents made a great deal with me. And they said, if you go straight for your master's, we'll pay for it. But if you take a break, no. So I literally graduated on Sunday and started on Tuesday. So I was very lucky. Right after school, I got my first job.
Where'd you get your master's in?
Education.
Uh-huh.
So I'm certified to teach elementary and secondary English.
Where was your first teaching job?
Island Park.
Oh, okay. And how long did you teach there?
Only 3 years, and then I got hurt.
You only taught 3 years. Wow.
Before that, it wasn't my own classroom, but I did teach high school English, and then I also taught kindergarten, but I was like the assistant teacher so that was the first time I ever had my own classroom.
I see. So tell me, your life changed at a young age when you had this accident. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I was young, like 24, I think. September
so that's
24th.
5 years ago. Wow.
Oh, you're so lovely. Thank you. So September 24th, 1996 was the day that my whole life changed. As I told you, I was doing my absolute dream job, teaching, and I thought I had a minor injury. I fell on some debris in the hallway, and I hurt my knee.
Debris in the hallway of the school?
I was walking my students in the hallway. They were doing construction, so they think I might have fallen on some construction debris. But, I didn't think it was going to be that major. But after 4 knee surgeries and tons of doctors and specialists, I was finally diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome.
Go over it again. Complex regional pain syndrome.
Yep. CRPS.
What is that?
So, in a nutshell, when you get hurt, whether you are cut or trauma or burn, your fight and flight system goes on. If you should develop this disease, and anybody can at any point of their life, it never ever shuts down. So your system is completely flaring at all times, and it just never stops. So you are in pain all of the time, and for most of us, it feels like you're on fire. I used to say, if you imagine draining all the blood from your body, replace it with gasoline, and light it on fire, that's how I feel.
But regional, so it's located only in the area of your knee?
So it's funny, the name has actually changed so many times since the Civil War. I think it's gone through like 7 or 8 changes. The change before, when I was first diagnosed, it was called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Now it's CRPS. It starts regionally. It generally starts in a limb. Mine started in my knee. However, mine has spread all through the right side of my body, the right side of my face. I've lost 75% of my peripheral vision. Yeah, it spread to my feet a couple of years ago. So no pretty shoes anymore.
And how is this debilitating?
Oh my gosh. Well, you're in pain 100% of the time. And all people think they know pain because they've been in pain. But acute pain and chronic pain are very, very different. And it's not like a dull ache, it is a stabbing, burning pain all the time. And then when I have a pain flare, it's worse than that.
Now, did you get that right away with the first surgery, and that caused some of the other surgeries trying to alleviate the pain?
Nope. So the surgeries were trying to fix what was wrong with my knee.
And what was wrong with it?
Well, in the New York system, I had to wait a year for my first surgery. So as I kept walking on it, I kept doing more damage and more damage. So I had ligament and tendon and muscle, and I just had so much damage to my knee. So when CRPS started exactly, I'm not sure. I think after the first or second surgery, my surgeon knew that my leg looked out of proportion. It was very, very swollen. It was so hot to the touch, such a degree temperature difference from one leg to the other. I mean, CRPS is an invisible disease generally, but I had every symptom outward. My leg was purple, it was mottled, like I said, the swelling, and he knew that wasn't post-surgical. He knew to send me to a specialist.
I know one time I got an infection in my elbow, and it swelled up, and it was hot to the touch. But sounds like it's another many degrees of difficulty.
Yeah, so that's the main debilitating. I mean, I walk with a cane, or if we go far, I have to go in a wheelchair because there is something still physically wrong with my knee, but I won't do any more surgery. But I almost don't care about that so much because it's the pain that really gets me, more so than anything. Unfortunately, it's known as the suicide disease. There are so many people. There are so many people that just can't find a way to manage their pain to a point that they can live.
And I would imagine it's disruptive to sleep.
I've had insomnia for over 20 years.
As a
I actually
result?
woke my, because you're in pain.
Yeah.
So generally my sleep is about 2.5 to 3.5 hours every night. And then I get up for 3 hours and then I go back to sleep for an hour or so.
Mm-hmm. So I can see why it would be the disease that sparks thoughts of suicide. What a terrible thing, not to know about it. Shame on me. But how have you have you learned to cope with it these 20 years now?
Yeah, almost 30 at this point. Wow. I have to say that thank gosh, I found a fabulous therapist who really taught me skills on how to pace myself so that I'm not doing 10 things on a good day and then have 5 bad days. That was a huge thing. I don't take any medication now. My first 10 years, I took 22 pills a day. But yeah, I haven't taken any pain medicine though, probably in about 15 years. So now, I mean, I do meditation. I practice mindfulness. I do cry a lot. But you'll never see me without a smile.
And you have 2 children?
I do.
Tell me about them.
Yeah, so they're wonderful. I have a 26-year-old daughter, Alana, who lives here in Charlotte. And then I have a 24-year-old son who lives not too far up in Raleigh.
And what was it like taking care of them through all of this?
It was a lot of guilt,
Well,
for sure.
First having them and then taking care of them.
Mm-hmm. It was that's also what the therapist did for me, because I always felt guilty, because we would have plans and then I'd have a flare and then we can't go. Or we were supposed to do something and, at the time when I was taking medication, it kicked in and I couldn't drive. Um, but I did learn that my children would persevere, and they really have. And they're very empathetic, very caring children.
And so tell me about your husband.
So my husband, Steve, I am so grateful to him. I got hurt not even a year into our marriage. And I told him he could go. I understand, he could go. And he didn't. And we're actually celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary this summer.
Wow, congratulations.
Hmm. Yeah, so he's an accountant and worked in Manhattan for years and years, and then came down here and worked as well.
So how did you turn this tragedy on your part that impacted you, your family, your children, and you think in good and bad ways? Uh, how did you turn this into something positive in your life?
So when my son was 12, he had to do a social action project. And he decided that he wanted to raise awareness. So he started a 5K here in Charlotte. And that year, he raised $16,000. And it was unbelievable. 20 people or so who had CRPS came to the event. And we all lived, some of us within miles of each other. We all lived in this vicinity. And, I remember when it was over, I was like, all right, thank you. And everyone's like, no, see you next year. And that started our races. This September will be our 12th annual. And then unfortunately, we had a couple of suicides in our little group, and we decided that we really needed to support each other. So that's how the support group started. And slowly we put on a college scholarship, and we just keep doing more and more. We help fund research and help fund doctor's education. So it was only in 2020 where we became our own nonprofit. We were giving all our money to another nonprofit, but now we have our own.
Tell me about the people in this group, which has now become a community. They came together because your son advertised this as supportive of CRPS, and that sent up the bat signal into the sky. And all of a sudden, you find out, well, I'm not the only one in this greater community here. There are several others, and that's how you meet. And they decide, well, let's make this an annual event. And then from that, you said, wait a minute, we've lost this one, we've lost another one. Let's become more formal, more organized in creating our own support community. Now, was your therapist involved in that planning, that thinking in any way? How did your therapist interact with you and coach you and guide you in this part of your journey?
She didn't help with the meetings itself, but she did coach me in that. It sounds strange, but not to take everyone's problems on, because I would. And the truth is, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, and other people were bringing me down. People want to tell their stories, and, they're not good stories. I mean, none of them are good. I would say the majority of people I know with CRPS live alone. Their families have left them. So it's hard. And I am just so fortunate that I have Steve and Lon and Landon, and my sister, who's in Plainview, is one of my biggest supporters for sure.
Plainview being another Long Island town right nearby here. So yeah, that's interesting. Let's go back. Their families have left them. Why is that? Tell me what's the chronology there? What happens?
So as you become set in pain, more pain, it's very hard to keep a sunny disposition. And I think a lot of people have more trouble than I do with that. And a lot of spouses just don't want to be around that. The other major problem is some people, including spouses, don't believe them.
Yes, that's what I was wondering if that was an issue there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are doctors that still have no idea what CRPS is.
Hmm. Especially when you keep changing the name.
It's ridiculous. Yes, it is ridiculous. I think it's going to stay this way for quite some time. At least I hope so.
Is there a group of doctors? I assume a neurologist would be who would help you here?
A neurologist, anesthesiologist, because they're generally pain specialists. Um, you know, it just depends on, sometimes there's surgeons, orthopedic people, sometimes endocrinologists. The problem is with CRPS, once your nervous system is damaged, it opens up a plethora of other issues. So I don't know a single soul who just has CRPS. After I developed CRPS, then I got fibromyalgia, dystonia, dysautonomia, POTS. Like the list just keeps, trigeminal neuralgia, occipital neuralgia. Like it just goes on and on.
Degenerative.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Are there effective drug treatments that other people? You've been drug free for 15 years, medication free for 15 years. Are there other people who find relief from certain medications?
So, it's funny, the whole opioid crisis brought things to light
That
for
was
sure.
the second part of my question is, do you find people who self-medicate?
So, like I said, I took, oh my gosh, I can't even begin to tell you how much medication. And I took just what was prescribed, but it was a lot. And when I missed my first dose, I got really, really sick. So I realized my body was dependent on these medications. And that's when I went off. And opiates, narcotics, they do have a place. After surgery for a day or two, you should have that. You know, when you get your teeth pulled, there's no reason the doctor should be giving you 30 days of pain medication. Um, the problem is people don't realize that long-term use of opiates is not going to help you. There are many people that I know.
The opposite.
That's exactly right. I
Further
felt
damage
better when I went off my meds.
Cause you maybe not to be independent anymore.
That's right. I felt better off the meds.
People with this disease, are they able to work?
Most of them cannot, which also brings a lot more issues. A lot of them have lost their homes. A bunch of them I know live with family or friends or live in an RV. I know a couple that lives in an RV. It's very challenging. It really is challenging for sure.
Now you've been fortunate enough to cast a net and find people in your community who suffer from the same condition, who you want to spend time with and you want to be part of and be partnered with in a community. Is there a national organization that looks into this, that provides funding for research or just information?
Mm-hmm. So we actually are national. We have members in Canada, in California, South Dakota, all over the place, especially since COVID when we went on Zoom. There is what I consider the Red Cross of CRPS is called RSDSA because it was formed when it was still called that. And they're a much bigger organization than we are, but we do different things. We still work together all the time. And that's who I used to give all our money to. But we still support them and they still support us because we're fighting the same battle.
Is there a medical institution or a set of doctors who make this their area of focus or research? Is the primary research housed at one medical center, health system?
No. There are some doctors who consider themselves to be CRPS specialists. But there's not anybody that you could say, oh, I saw so-and-so, the best person. I mean, there are some really good, compassionate doctors who understand the disease for sure. But there is not, they're not doing, the Mayo Clinic hasn't set up a, CRPS, one spot so that they can learn and, help treat people.
Is that something that you'd like to see or that RSDSA would like to see?
Well, I can't speak for RSDSA, but me, absolutely. Well, we are working with, right now, the University of Arizona. And the University of Arizona, there's a group of scientists and doctors who have developed what they think is going to be not necessarily a cure, but a really good treatment. We funded their seed round, and we're just about to give them another, what is that called? Thank you. award a grant to them so they can go into their second round with human beings.
Mm-hmm. And the way you raise this money is through this walk. Or what other activities have you organized?
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We did have an international conference 2 years ago, and I'm planning one next year as well. But that's not a fundraiser in the least bit. If anything, we use money that we've earned. The only way we get money is donations. It was in Charlotte. And we had probably about 70 in attendance, and then probably another 50 online.
And those who came or participated virtually, clinicians, people suffering from CRPS?
I would say the majority were people who have the disease and others who were affected by it, whether it's a spouse, a caregiver, a parent. I'm very cautious and I'm very aware of a caregiver's role. And most caregivers don't even realize they're caregivers, and they don't realize they're not taking care of themselves. And that's really important to me, to talk about caregivers and talk to caregivers as well.
They play such an important role in our society, and they're underrated.
Oh,
Some people don't
absolutely.
even ever think of themselves as caregivers. They just think of their responsibility or the right thing to do.
That's exactly right.
Beth, I have to believe this has been expensive. How have you been able to pay for your care?
Well, so I actually got hurt at work. So mine is covered through workman's comp. Most people, it depends. A lot of them are on
Is it always attributed
Medicare.
to an injury, or can it just develop? Yours,
So
yours,
I
you're
was
sure
always,
developed because of the surgeries you had on your
oh,
injured knee.
absolutely.
But what's causal in other people?
So I don't want to say always, because there are a couple cases that, that isn't, but it's some sort of trauma. And it could be as small as, I know someone who slit their finger on a soda can. We had a little girl, she's not so little anymore. When she came to us, she was 5, who twisted her ankle in dance. And now she has full body CRPS. Yeah, it's any type of injury, and anybody, it doesn't matter how old or young, how healthy you are. It's just, if you get hurt at that moment, there you go.
Tell me about this lady who's been your therapist all this time, who's been so helpful to you. What kind of a therapist is she? What can you tell me about how she works with you?
Yeah, sure. So she's a psychologist. And she actually used to work in a pain clinic. And so she understood the disease, which was a great thing, because a lot of times that you have to get over that part. And I didn't. She understands the disease. She understands that CRPS is not a psychological disease. However, being in pain for so long starts to play with your mental health.
Sure.
So
especially
depression,
in your case, being unable to sleep effectively, that has to have an impact on your mental health.
Absolutely. Yeah, depression, anxiety. I mean, there's so many different things. So mental health does play a huge role. But I don't want to say that this is a psychological disease. Like some people will say it's all in your head. That's not true.
That, I'm sure, is what some people in your community have heard from their families, which is why sometimes they become ostracized, because the family can't understand. I don't see anything. I don't understand it. They're faking it, whatever.
That's right. And that's the problem with an invisible disease. And it's not an invisible disease like diabetes or cancer or something that everyone knows about. But we've had people, we've talked about this many times. I'll go out, people will say to me, "Oh my gosh, you look so great. You can't be in pain."
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if I looked the way I felt, I'd be crying in bed all day. Yeah. I'm going to do as much as I possibly can all day for as long as I can. I'm always dressed. I'm always with makeup. It's just the way I'm going to always present myself. Because who's going to want to come up to me if I'm crying and have a frown on my face all day?
Sure.
You're going to lose your friends very quickly that way.
Which is what you say has happened to many people in your community.
Mm-hmm. It has. I also really, truly believe that there is a mindset to this. And this is also what my therapist helped me learn, is that I can't heal the disease myself. but I can learn how to deal with it and put myself in a better place. So, for instance, no matter what, how I'm feeling, major flare or not, um, I always get out of bed. Always. Even if that means crawling to the couch. And I always get out of pajamas. And
So
again, even if that means just,
rituals are important here.
well, it's also, it changes your mindset. If you're in bed, you're sick, right? If you're on the couch watching TV, all right, you're resting. It's different. I think so. Same thing with being in pajamas all day.
Yes. Don't give in to it.
That's it. So that's what she helped me learn.
If you don't mind my asking, has she worked with Steve and your children?
So she's worked with Steve a lot.
Yeah.
And Steve, and she actually, a while ago, really pushed Steve to get his own therapist. And he's like, I don't need it. And he found out, you know what? As a caregiver, he wasn't really taking care of himself. So, he tried out some hobbies and whatnot. And when I'd be in really bad pain flare, he'd ask me what he can do. And after I was set on the couch or whatever, he'd say, okay, I'm going for a bike ride. Now, I was upset about that, even though I knew it was the absolute right thing. There's no reason for him to sit and wallow with me. So that was important for him to learn as well.
What do you do? What's next for you? You continue to raise money. You're going to hold another one of your conferences. Is your community growing? Are you finding other people that you invite into your network to provide comfort and support, education, information?
So I'm online almost every day looking for, research or something new or someone who could bring something to the table. We have a monthly support group. We used to meet in Charlotte, and people would drive anywhere up to 3 hours to come to our support group. And then, of course, COVID hit and we went via online. And that's how now we have members all over the country. It's very important to me to bring, either I do a presentation or I bring special guests in, guest speakers, who can make their life easier, not just doctors and physical therapists, which we do need to hear from, but we've had, hypnosis, we had meditation. I actually had a chef come on to teach how to make some really easy recipes without cutting, without standing too long, anything to make their lives easier. I had someone come on to teach how you could take care of yourself in your home. We try to have as much as we can come in, and just like I said, to try to educate. We're going to be having a music therapist come on.
And do you record these sessions and make it available online for your community members or people just interested in learning?
So because personal details are shared, I do have it online, but you have to ask for the link. I don't want it just being out there on public knowledge because, like I said, we are sharing. But we always, I'm always looking for different guests to come in, and, anybody who I said could just make our lives a little easier. We've had all different types of therapists come in, all different types of doctors, and people who have, like stimulators or different tools of treating their pain. We try to expose them to.
So what I'm guessing here, you're casting a net and you're looking for medical professionals who are interested in this world. You're looking for therapists who are looking to get better at helping these people or have some experience that they'd like to share. You're looking for other people who might want to become part of your community. You're looking for family members, friends, caregivers who want to learn more and be better able to deal with the people in their lives who suffer from CRPS, and that's all good for your community and good for you personally because you're using your energies and your expertise and your capabilities to do good for others and for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what I would do without this because this has given me my purpose in life. I try to share with my group if you can't work, volunteer, an hour. You just do something so that you can say, I did something and you're productive. It's very hard for others to see that. But I don't know what I would do because this also, brings me back to my teaching because I'm educating others and hearing other people's stories and sharing my stories. It makes people feel that they're not alone. It's a very, very isolating disease. And
Isolating, and it sounds to me from what you said earliest on, Beth, is that a big part of this for people who suffer from this condition have people around them who doubt that it's real.
mm-hmm.
And that's got to be painful. Pardon the double entendre.
No, I mean, I had members in the beginning, especially in the beginning, who just wouldn't believe. Even though I gave them the research about it, they didn't believe it was a real disease. I think now they do, of course. But like, I had a doctor who was supposedly a great doctor who I would go in and I would say, I know it's my right leg, but my right arm is feeling the same thing. It's like, that's impossible. I'm telling you, it's the same exact thing. And, then talking to my group and everyone else is like, yeah, mine's spread. Well, now this doctor now does admit that it spreads. But 10 years ago, he wouldn't. But thank gosh, I had my group to go to. Hey, does anybody get this? Is anyone getting this?
Has anybody in your community seen reversal and not see it spread, but maybe contract? Do they finally get an upper hand on it? Have there been any cases where there's been some improvement versus degeneration?
I've heard some people can go in remission.
Really?
I don't know of any.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any. The problem, if they catch this fast enough, they say if they catch this within 6 months, they can reverse it.
How?
Because your brain hasn't gotten into that pattern yet. It
Yes.
hasn't. My brain, obviously, from being in pain this long, knows to just keep firing and firing.
Your brain gets good at whatever it does.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So if they could catch it fast enough, if more doctors were aware of this and could diagnose it, people wouldn't, I don't think there'd be as many people for sure. It's funny, we support the American Academy of Thermology. Thermography is when they take a picture of your body. I used to call it the Terminator, and they can see what's flaring, what's not flaring. Heat, like a heat temperature. And that is one of the only ways you could truly, truly diagnose any type of nerve damage. You can't fake that test. You can't make it up. If you have nerve damage, it's going to show your nerve damage. So last year, we sponsored their conference, underwrote their conference for international doctors to learn more. We've set up thermography labs at University of Miami and then Temple University. So there's labs that were built just because of Fight the Flame. It's very important to me that doctors learn how to diagnose this disease.
Beth, so for the clinicians out there, for the people who might want to explore your community, for the caregivers or concerned family members or friends who want to learn more, where would you direct them?
My website, our website, which is just fighttheflame.org. Nothing fancy.
Fighttheflame.org. Go ahead.
Yes. And I mean, something that we are always looking for is, it's a lot of work. So anybody who can help is always a blessing. I really am always looking for corporate sponsors, not just for our event, but for the year, so that we can keep bringing in speakers so we just produced brochures that we are trying to get into many doctors' offices we can. And we send those out for free, to all whoever wants them. They just have to ask me and I'll send them out.
Sounds to me like you'd like to find a celebrity who suffers from this, who'd like to lend their star power to creating this community, getting the word out.
This is true. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of stars who are in chronic pain, not many that I know with CRPS.
Yeah. Well, Beth Stillitano, interesting story. Obviously a painful story. So sorry for what you've gone through, but so proud and happy to see that you've made so many strides to lead a normal life, be a wife and a mother, and a community organizer now, that you're bringing your experiences to aid others, to bring information together so that other people who suffer from this don't have to suffer like you did, and that you can get up in the morning knowing that while you have your difficulties to overcome, you're making good use of your life, not only for your family, but for this community that you're at the center of. Congratulations, Beth.
Thank you.
And Beth,
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
and thanks for sharing your story with us, Beth, and thanks for reaching out.
I have to tell you, I'm so glad that I now get all of your emails, and I just got one today actually about overcoming things. They really speak to me for sure. And I'm glad that I was able to get in touch with you and tell you how much I enjoyed reading them.
Well, I'm thrilled that you did, and you're why we do.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Beth.